The first gash across my meadow looked like an open wound, raw, deliberate, and mocking. Bright orange flags fluttered in the morning wind like little insults, guiding my eye to a trench I had never authorized. A coil of yellow safety pipe glinted in the sun like a snake claiming territory. This land isn't just dirt to me. It's my backbone, my oxygen, the proof that I built a life by my own rules. Yet overnight, strangers cut it open and stamped a logo where my name should be. When I called the HOA, the president's voice was syrup over poison. "It's for the community," she chirped. Funny, community projects don't usually require forged signatures, midnight engines, and a notary swearing she saw me sign when I wasn't even there. I locked my gate, grabbed my camera, and made myself a promise. If they wanted to fight, I'd drag their shadows into the floodlights and leave a paper trail behind every lie. That morning had started like any other, quiet, crisp, dew-heavy on the long grass. I brewed my coffee and watched the sun rise over the gentle slopes of Redwood County. My 20 acres weren't just property. They were sanctuary. When I bought this place 15 years ago, I made sure every document screamed one thing: this land would never fall under HOA control. No petty rules about grass height, no fines over shutter colors, no self-appointed tyrants knocking at my door. Freedom was the real purchase price. So imagine my shock when I stepped outside and saw the blaze of orange flags slashing across my meadow like neon scars. At first glance, they almost looked festive, like someone prepping for a parade. But as I got closer, my stomach dropped. A trench had been carved through the heart of my field. The soil lay ripped and gaping. Heavy machinery sat abandoned, their wheels gouging wounds that months of rain wouldn't heal. No letters, no phone calls, no knock at my door. Just a pipeline coiled like a stake in my ground. My chest tightened, not just with anger, but with a sense of violation. This wasn't a mistake. It was someone telling me I didn't matter. Then I saw the sign, Community Safety Initiative. Authorized gas line installation. At the bottom, in bold, Redwood Hills Homeowners Association. Their little oak tree emblem glared at me like a brand. My mouth went dry. Redwood Hills HOA. They had no jurisdiction here. Never had. I paid extra to keep them out. Yet here they were, slithering in at night as though they owned the place. I stormed back inside, adrenaline hammering. My hand shook as I dialed their office. A bored receptionist answered. "This is Jackson Cole," I snapped. "There's unauthorized construction on my property. Who's responsible?" Shuffling papers. A pause. Then, "Yes, Mr. Cole. That's part of the safety improvement project. Gas lines are being modernized across Redwood Hills. My land isn't part of Redwood Hills. You have no right to dig on my property. According to our records," she droned, "we have the owner's signature on file." The words hit like a slap. Impossible. I never signed anything. "Well, if you have an issue," she said, "you'll have to speak with our president, Cassandra Pike." She put me on hold. Minutes later, the line went dead, deliberately, I suspected. I grabbed my truck keys and drove into town, fury vibrating through every mile. Redwood Hills HOA's office turned out to be a squat gray building wedged between a nail salon and a dry cleaner, hardly the fortress I'd pictured for such brazen thieves. Inside smelled like stale coffee and smug authority. The receptionist barely looked up. "Do you have an appointment?" "No." "But I'm not leaving until I speak with her." A call was made. Moments later, Cassandra Pike appeared, tall, sleek navy suit, perfect hair, a smile so rehearsed it might as well have been painted on. "Mr. Cole," she said warmly, hand extended. "How can I help you today? You can explain why there's a trench and a gas line on my property without my permission." Her smile didn't falter. "Ah, yes. The Community Safety Initiative. We're installing new gas lines for everyone's benefit. My property isn't part of your HOA," I shot back. "I made sure of that. You have no jurisdiction here." Her eyes gleamed predator-like, though her voice stayed sweet. "According to updated records, Mr. Cole, your land was incorporated into the association's jurisdiction 2 years ago. And as for authorization, we have your signature on file." My fist clenched. "That signature is a forgery." Her smile stiffened. "Those are serious allegations. You're welcome to pursue legal channels. In the meantime, the project will proceed. You're trespassing. If you don't stop immediately, I'll call the sheriff." She dropped the smile, revealing the blade beneath. "You're welcome to try. but I'd advise caution before obstructing a community safety project. Interfering could have consequences. The unspoken threat hung heavy. I turned and walked out before my rage got the better of me. In the truck, my knuckles went white on the wheel. My sanctuary, now being stolen out from under me. When I got home, dusk was settling over the hills. I grabbed a flashlight and marched back to the trench. The machinery loomed like monsters in the fading light. That's when I saw it, a white envelope wedged under one of the orange flags. The emblem stared back at me. Inside was a copy of the supposed authorization letter, my name scrawled across the bottom. A crude imitation of my signature. My stomach turned. This wasn't incompetence. It was fraud. I spread the forged letter beside my deed on the dining table. The deed was ironclad, my property explicitly excluded from HOA jurisdiction. No gray area. No loopholes. Yet here was proof they were willing to lie, forge, and trespass to sink their hooks into my land. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, staring out at the trench under the moonlight. It wasn't about safety. It was about control. And I swore they'd picked the wrong man to steal from. By sunrise, my decision was made. I called my lawyer, Marian Torres, an old friend and tough as nails. Years ago, she'd helped me fend off a crooked contractor. If anyone could tear this mess apart, it was Marian. You're telling me they forged your signature and dug up your land, she said, voice edged like a blade. Exactly, I spat. And I've got the forged document in my hand. She went quiet, then, forgery's criminal. Trespass is both civil and criminal. They've crossed every line. I'll draft a cease and desist by day's end. In the meantime, document everything. Photos, videos, timestamps. Don't confront them alone. Her words steadied me. Finally, I wasn't just a lone man raging at the machine. I had a weapon, but I couldn't shake the pit in my stomach. The HOA's boldness wasn't arrogance. It was strategy. All morning I patrolled my property like a soldier. The trench looked uglier in daylight, mud piles scarring the meadow, orange flags fluttering like little conquest pennants. I photographed every inch, measured the trench, and snapped side-by-side shots of the forged letter and my deed, the contrast damning obvious. At noon, I drove to the county records office. The clerk, a middle-aged man with horn-rimmed glasses, pulled up my file and frowned. Says here your land was annexed into Redwood Hills 2 years ago. Impossible. Show me. He swiveled the monitor. A scanned amendment listed my property, my signature at the bottom, the same sloppy forgery notarized by someone named Brenda Holcomb. That's not my handwriting, I said sharply. That's fraud. The clerk lowered his voice. You're not the first landowner to say that. The HOA's been expanding aggressively. But you're the first with actual proof of forgery. My anger only grew. So what happens now? He shrugged. File a formal dispute. We can flag it for review, but it'll take time. Time, the very thing the HOA was counting on. By the time bureaucracy caught up, their pipeline would be in the ground and their lies cemented with it. When I pulled into my driveway, my truck skidded to a halt. Parked at my gate was a massive excavator, its steel bucket hovering inches above the chain and padlock I'd installed the night before, like a predator crouching. No workers, no supervisors. Just the silent threat left behind. My jaw tightened. Enough was enough. I called Marian. They're trying to intimidate you, she said. Don't give them that satisfaction. The cease and desist goes out today. Tomorrow we'll request an injunction. If they keep working, they'll be in contempt. Her words were fuel, but my fury still boiled. That night, every sound outside made me twitch. Tires on gravel, the hum of an engine far off. I installed motion sensors along the property line, rigged tin cans on wires across the gate. Primitive alarms, but they made me feel less like prey. Just after midnight, I heard the crunch of tires. I crept to the window. A black SUV rolled slowly along the edge of my land, headlights off, engine low. It paused near the excavator, then circled like a wolf testing the fence. Phone in hand, I stayed still. They wanted me to flinch. I didn't. Morning brought escalation. I was sanding a chair in my workshop when engines roared again. Outside, 3 trucks had parked at my gate. Men in reflective vests and hard hats clustered around, clipboards in hand. One of them yanked at the chain on my gate. "This is private property," I shouted, striding forward. "You're trespassing." The man with the clipboard stepped forward, his tone clipped. "We're here on behalf of Redwood Hills HOA to continue the gas line installation. Remove this gate immediately or we'll involve law enforcement." The audacity nearly knocked the breath out of me. "You've already broken the law," I snapped. "Forgery, trespass, property damage, you name it. If anyone's calling law enforcement, it's me." He didn't blink. "We have all necessary permits. Your signature is on file." My voice stayed steady, but fury laced every word. "That signature is forged. I have proof. Touch this gate and you'll regret it." One of the trucks shifted into reverse, inching closer as if to ram the chain. My pulse spiked. I stepped forward, planting my boots in the dirt. "If you damage my property, you'll answer for it. I'm warning you." The driver hesitated. The man with the clipboard raised his hand, signaling him to stop. He glared at me with ice in his eyes. "We'll be back. This isn't over." They turned and rolled off in a cloud of dust, leaving my heart hammering. As soon as they disappeared, I dialed Marion. "They just tried to force their way in," I told her, my voice taut. She sighed. "I knew they'd push like this." "Good, you stood your ground." I'll add this incident to the injunction. A judge won't like them ignoring boundaries. By evening, I sat alone in my workshop, the scent of sawdust thick in the air. Through the window, the trench cut across my meadow like a scar. My sanctuary, my freedom, my life's work, under siege. And it hit me. This wasn't about a pipe. It was about control. A war the HOA had already decided to win by any means necessary. But they underestimated me. I wasn't a man who gave up ground to thieves, to frauds, or to a polished liar like Cassandra Pike. They started this in the shadows. I drag it into the light. The morning after the trucks retreated, I woke with a knot in my chest coffee couldn't untangle. My sanctuary had turned into a battleground, and I couldn't shake the sense the HOA wasn't just testing me, they were laying groundwork for something bigger. I spread every document across my dining table, the deed, the forged authorization letter, photos of the trench, the video of the trucks at my gate. Each piece of evidence stared back like a weapon waiting to be used. Marion had told me to document everything, and I did, down to the angle of every orange flag in the dirt. But one detail gnawed at me, the notary's name on the annexation document. Brenda Holcomb. My gut said she wasn't just some random clerk. I searched, and sure enough, she wasn't just a notary. She was listed as an HOA board member. A conflict of interest so blatant it wasn't just unethical, it was criminal. She notarized my consent while sitting on the board that benefited from it. I forwarded everything to Marion. Within an hour, she called back. "Jackson, this is bigger than I thought. If a board member notarized forged signatures, we're looking at felony fraud, conspiracy, the works. I'll file the cease and desist today. Tomorrow, I'll push for an injunction. We should also prepare a counterclaim for trespass, property damage, harassment. You've got the evidence." Her confidence gave me a flicker of hope. But I knew people like Cassandra Pike didn't play by rules. They wouldn't pack up because a judge told them to. That night, sanding down the leg of an oak chair, I heard it again, tires crunching on gravel. I killed the light, peered through the window. A black pickup crawled along the edge of my land like a vulture. It didn't stop, just lingered long enough to make my skin crawl. By morning, a bright orange notice was stapled to my gate. My stomach dropped as I read the bold letters. Zoning violation, unauthorized structures. It accused me of building my workshop and greenhouse without permits and threatened fines and even demolition. I laughed bitterly. My workshop had been inspected and approved 10 years ago. The greenhouse stamped by the county. This wasn't zoning, it was retaliation. I tore the notice down and marched to my filing cabinet. Out came every permit, every approval, every receipt. I made copies, scanned a lot, and emailed it to Marion. They're trying to bury me in bogus violations now. I told her, my voice tight. She sighed, unsurprised. Classic tactic. They hit you with paperwork and fines until you crack. But you've got the permits. This will backfire. I wanted to believe her. But my gut churned. The HOA wasn't bending rules. They were rewriting them as they went. Later that afternoon, I met with Franklin Henders, an old rancher who'd lived on the edge of Redwood County for 40 years. Over coffee at a diner, he leaned close. They tried the same thing with me 10 years ago, he said, weathered hands wrapped around his mug. Claimed my cattle pens violated setbacks, hauled me into hearings, slapped me with fines. I held out for a year before I sold 5 acres just to make them stop. Thought I was the only one. But looking at what you're facing, Jackson, they're getting bolder. I clenched my jaw. Why hasn't anyone stopped them? Because most folks don't have the fight in them, he said simply. Boys, wear you down. But you've got something most don't, proof. And guts. By mid-morning, the rumble of engines came again. For trucks lined up outside my gate, engines idling like beasts. A dozen men in reflective vests milled around. 2 heavy rigs carried pipe spools strapped to their beds, industrial grade. I walked calmly toward the gate, camera in hand, heart thudding. This is private property. You're trespassing. There's a court order in place. The man in charge, broad-shouldered with a sunburned neck, stepped forward. His voice was flat. We've got authorization. Remove this gate, Mr. Cole, or we'll do it ourselves. I raised my camera higher, framing his face. You so much as touch that chain, and you'll be personally liable. Forged documents don't grant access. His eyes narrowed. But before he could answer, another figure emerged. A woman in her late 40s, sharp-featured, holding a clipboard. My gut twisted at the name tag, Brenda Holcomb, the notary who'd witnessed my forged signature. She smiled with a lawyer's polish. Mr. Cole, I see you're documenting today's progress. Transparency is important in projects like these. I nearly laughed. Transparency? You forged my name. You've trespassed on land that never belonged to you. That's not transparency, it's fraud. Her smile didn't flicker. I'm afraid you're mistaken. The HOA has all necessary permissions. If you'd like, we can schedule a meeting with President Pike to clear up your confusion. I stepped closer, pressing record on my phone. You're violating a court order right now. Keep talking, Brenda. Every word is evidence. Her eyes hardened. The smile vanished. Be careful, Mr. Cole. Interfering with a public safety project carries serious consequences. I'd hate to see this escalate. She turned, snapped her fingers. The workers packed up. Trucks revved. The convoy retreated in a cloud of dust. I exhaled, replaying every second in my mind. They weren't just pushing, they were probing, testing how far I'd go. That night I sat in Marion's office downtown, the glow of her desk lamp casting long shadows. I played the video of Brenda's smug warning. Marion scribbled notes furiously. She admitted presence on your land despite the cease and desist, she said. And she's the same notary on the forged annexation. That's damning. We're adding criminal fraud and contempt of court. I nodded, but unease gnawed at me. It's more than a gas line, I said. The pipe isn't residential grade. It's industrial reinforced. And when I pried open a panel, I saw wiring inside. Her pen froze. She looked up sharply. Wiring? That means monitoring or data transmission. Jackson, this isn't about utilities. They're running something else through your property. A chill ran through me. My instincts had been right. This was bigger than gas. The following morning, another orange notice was nailed to my gate, claiming my greenhouse violated environmental codes, the joke. It had been built with stamp permits 5 years ago. They weren't even hiding the retaliation anymore. But by then I had allies. Franklin showed up with coffee and grim resolve. He'd spoken to 3 other landowners who had similar stories. Bogus fines, forged annexations, intimidation by trucks idling on their driveways. We gathered in my workshop, air thick with sawdust and outrage, and began to plan. Individually, they picked us off. Together, we fought. We would file affidavits, testify, and shine a light so bright the HOA couldn't hide. Franklin slapped the table. Damn right. I've had enough of living scared. That afternoon, Marion drafted the affidavits. One by one, we signed, ink biting into paper like defiance carved in steel. These weren't just complaints. They were sworn accounts of harassment, fraud, and abuse of power. But the HOA struck back fast. At dusk, a black sedan rolled up. 2 men in suits stepped out, calm and predatory, briefcase in hand. I met them at the gate. Mr. Cole, the taller one, began smoothly. we'd like to offer a resolution. The HOA is prepared to compensate you generously for granting permanent access to your property. How generous? I asked. He opened the case, cash settlement, typed contract, promises of integration into community jurisdiction, and increased market value. I laughed, bitter and sharp. You want me to sell my independence so you can bulldoze my land? Forget it. His tone hardened. Fighting us will complicate matters. Consider your options carefully. Get off my property. They left, silent but smug. That night, headlights prowled the edges of my field, slow and deliberate. They were watching. By dawn, I knew they'd moved from paperwork to intimidation. But Cassandra Pike didn't understand what happens when a man's pushed too far. With Marion's injunction pending, my neighbor's affidavit signed, and evidence stacking higher by the hour, the tide was shifting. They had money and lawyers. I had truth and fire. And I swore the next time they came, I wouldn't be standing alone. Still, something nagged at me, the sense they'd left a message behind. I returned to the trench at sunrise, camera in hand. The pipe was wrong, industrial, far heavier than any residential line. Near the midpoint, a bolted access panel caught the light. I pried it open. Inside sat a junction box stamped with a logo that froze my breath, Meridian Grid. I knew that name. Marion had mentioned them, a private infrastructure firm that built data hubs and power corridors, not gas systems. Inside the box were coaxial cables, not fuel conduits. Data lines. Surveillance or transmission. I photographed everything. Serial numbers, connectors, stamps. This wasn't a community project. It was a corporate pipeline disguised as a gas upgrade. When I sent the photos, Marion's voice came tight with controlled fury. Jackson, that module changes everything. Get those images to the county recorder. I'm filing subpoenas for Meridian's contracts and payment trails. If they funded this, we'll trace it. She filed emergency motions, forcing the HOA and Meridian to turn over records. The county clerk flagged the annexation and froze amendments. It felt like sunlight breaching a locked cellar. Then I reached out to a local reporter, Leah Morris, a sharp journalist who thrived on exposing powerful people. I sent her the pictures and the timeline, the trench, the forgery, the notary on the HOA board, the wiring hidden in the pipe. Her reply came within minutes. I'm on my way. We walked the trench together, her camera flashing, questions cutting to the bone. Who notarized the amendment? She asked. Who benefits? Where's the money coming from? I told her about Brenda Holcomb, about Cassandra Pike, about the $75,000 demand letter. Leah's eyes hardened. This isn't overreach, it's organized land capture. Within a day, she uncovered payments from a shell account tied to Meridian, timed perfectly with annexation filings across several properties. It wasn't proof on its own, but the pattern was unmistakable. Marion followed up with subpoenas for contracts, transfers, and engineering plans. Meridian's lawyers responded with polished evasions, requests for extensions, redactions, and technicalities. A corporate fortress pretending it wasn't crumbling. Meanwhile, I hired a handwriting expert. The woman studied my signature on the deed and the one on the annexation. Not the same hand, she said. It's deliberate. Someone tried to imitate your motion and failed. Proof of forgery. Proof of intent. Marion ordered forensic accountants to dig through HOA records. They found a lump sum infrastructure consulting payment from Meridian to a hidden HOA reserve fund. The date matched the annexation perfectly. It was motive written in numbers. Then Leah called again, her voice low. Jackson, I found an email between a Meridian exec and an HOA consultant. It says, use HOA jurisdiction to formalize corridors and secure rights of way. Residents will think it's for safety. It was the smoking gun we'd been waiting for. Soon after, Brenda Holcomb began sending defensive emails from her HOA account, half legal jargon, half panic. Mentions of ruined reputation, financial exposure, liability, cracks in the armor. But cracks also mean danger. The more truth surfaced, the more desperate they became. Trucks prowled again, louder this time, their presence a warning. I documented everything. Every notice, every tire mark, every shadow on the gravel. Marion pushed subpoenas for HOA board members' bank records. Cassandra, Brenda, all of them. If kickbacks tied them to Meridian, this would shift from civil case to criminal. Fraud, conspiracy, racketeering. Fear never left, but it sharpened me. It made me precise. Every detail, every timestamp, every photo was a weapon. When Leah called again, her words were both relief and dread. "Meridian's denying everything," she said. "They claim no direct ties to the HOA, but their logo was on the module, their money in the HOA's accounts, their emails in Leah's hands. Their denial was hollow. The storm they hoped to outlast was now breaking wide open. The county launched an investigation. Marion's filing showed proof of forgery, trespass, and a data conduit masquerading as a gas line. Leah's article was set to publish, naming names and showing evidence. And for the first time since this began, the town was waking up. Standing by that trench, dirt clinging to my boots, the morning light cutting across the scar in my field, I felt calm. The fight had outgrown me. It wasn't one man against an HA anymore. It was truth clawing its way into daylight. Marion stepped closer, the quiet hum of the courtroom amplifying every word. "You notarized Mr. Cole's signature on the annexation amendment." "Correct." "Yes," Brenda said, her voice thin. "You personally witnessed him sign that document?" Brenda hesitated just long enough for the silence to turn heavy. "I did," she managed. Marion turned to the judge. "Your Honor, for the record, the witness has affirmed she personally observed Mr. Cole sign Exhibit C." She let the words linger, then pivoted smoothly. "Mrs. Holcomb, how long have you served on the HOA board?" "Years." "And during that time, have you received any compensation or consulting fees from external contractors?" "No," Brenda replied quickly. Marion nodded, flipping a page. "So this payment," she held up a printed bank record, "of $25,000 from Meridian Grid to your joint HOA account 2 days before the notarization, that wasn't compensation?" Brenda's eyes darted to Cassandra, then back to Marion. "That was a reimbursement for infrastructure review." "Infrastructure review?" Marion tilted her head. "You're a notary and a treasurer. You don't review infrastructure, do you?" The room went still. Brenda swallowed, glancing toward her counsel. Cassandra's lawyer shifted, whispering urgently, but the damage was already done. Marion pressed forward. "Let's make this simple. Did you or did you not see Mr. Cole sign that document?" Brenda's lips parted, then closed again. Her breath hitched. "I received it signed," she said finally, the words barely above a whisper. Marion's voice cut clean through the silence. "So you lied under oath in your previous statement?" Cassandra's attorney shot to his feet. "Objection, badgering the witness." The judge's gavel struck once. "Overruled. The witness will answer the question." Brenda's shoulders sagged. "Yes," she said, her voice cracking. "I lied. I never saw him sign it." The sound in the courtroom shifted, gasps, whispers, the scratch of pens racing across paper. Marion didn't smile. She simply laid the next exhibit on the table, the forensic report confirming the forgery, and said, "No further questions." Cassandra sat frozen, jaw tight, every ounce of composure draining from her. For the first time since this began, the mask of control shattered. The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Pike," he said, his tone low and measured, "do you have anything to add before I issue my ruling on the injunction?" But Cassandra ignored him. She rose slowly, defiance flickering in her eyes. "You're making a mistake." Marion stood without missing a beat. "We do now," she said softly. "All construction and related activity were suspended pending criminal investigation into forgery, trespass, and fraud. The county sheriff's office was ordered to secure the property line and seize all unauthorized equipment. The war's not over. Corporations like Meridian don't vanish, and I never stop hungering for control. But when they came for me, I stood. And that stand lit something larger than one man's fight. It proved that ordinary people, armed with truth and grit, can face power and make it blink. As the last light fades, I whisper the same vow I made that first night. This land is mine, and it always will be. Freedom, I've learned, doesn't vanish all at once. It's chipped away, by paperwork, by fear, by silence. But silence is permission. The moment you speak, you find others ready to stand beside you. So to anyone listening, don't underestimate your power. Whatever it is you're fighting for, hold your ground. Because once you let it slip, it may never come back. And if my story lit a spark in you, then good. Let it burn. Because light is the one thing they can't bury.